Started with this part. Learning about our ancestors helps us to understand better who we are, creating a family bond, linking the present to the past, and building a bridge to the future. Before you begin, let me tell you that you are going to be buried in paper. There's going to be scraps, there's going to be post-it notes, you're going to write things on the backs of napkins, and you're never going to remember what those pieces of paper are. So I'd suggest before you even get really into this, get yourself a little notebook, maybe 5 by 7, and number each page. On the last 2 pages, make an index. And every time you put in a website or something, put that on the index page and then don't lose it.
That's a good idea.
Put a little address label inside of it. Genealogists know how much work you've put into everything that you do, and if you happen to lose that book and leave it in a library somewhere, they will return it. I've got Family Tree Maker on my computer, but I am just not organized enough to use it a lot. I'm like the queen of disorganization. So what I've also done is to have to break things down into families, into file folders, because this is only like 3 people. This is what I have on 3 people so far. Every school student learns about the Revolutionary War, but it becomes personal when you find that you actually have a bloodline that goes back there. In researching the Revolutionary War, you might want to remember that it's also known as the American War for Independence. Because if you start Googling Revolutionary War, you're going to find France had a Revolutionary War, everybody's got a Revolutionary War at some point in time. So if you Google American Revolutionary War, you're going to be a lot better off. The duration of the war was from 1775 to 1783. So if you're focusing on Rev soldiers, your sources will be in that time frame. The first event of the war was Lexington and Concord. That particular event happened April 19th, 1774, which was a full year before the actual war started.
75, Bethany.
I'm sorry. No, 1774.
No, 1775.
Yes.
Sources I looked up yesterday is what they said, because the war started in 1775, and this was a year before the war started.
74, the war had started.
74 was the Boston Massacre, I think,
Yes.
which some people...
No, that was 1770.
Okay.
17, I lived in Lexington a long time.
Oh, okay.
April 1775
Yeah.
is the outbreak of the first significant fighting.
Which was
Lexington
at
and
Lexington.
Independence was declared in 76.
76, right. The last event was the Treaty of Paris, which was September the 3rd, 1783. This is when your pension records will start. Now, the key players in this war are the colonists and the British. Okay? The colonists, the patriots, the rebels, they're all the same people. Today, we might call them insurgents. They were aided by people from Poland, France, Holland, and Spain. The British were not just British soldiers, they were also American loyalists. There were Germans, Hessians, who some of those decided to stay in America and swore allegiance to the new country. It's also necessary when you're starting your research to understand the military organization. There's the Continental Army, which was the new federal army, started on June the 14th, 1775. It numbered about 20,000 troops. Now understand that up until this point, we've not been thinking of ourselves as a country, but as 13 colonies. Now they had to provide for a common defense. A definite challenge was to coordinate that defense. So these men had a longer period of service than the militia did, usually around 3 years. And the age requirements for these men were from 16 to 60. Now, my husband just turned 60. I just can't see him signing up to go to battle, although he might want to. And it had a larger scope of defensible territory because the Continental Army was going to be over the whole 13 colonies. The commander-in-chief was George Washington. And he had 4 major generals fighting underneath him and 8 brigadier generals. Many times the units in the Revolutionary War were named after these men. So somewhere down, jot these down: Artemus Ward, Charles Lee, Philip Schuyler, and Israel Putnam. One of my ancestors fought with Israel Putnam during the French and Indian War. The brigadier generals were Pomeroy, Montgomery, Wooster, Heath, Spencer, Thomas, Sullivan, and Greene. So a lot of times when you're looking up what unit they were in, it might just be listed under those names. If you Google those names, it'll also give you maybe some insight about the battles that were fought and where your ancestor actually found service. The state and local militia were citizens who provided defense and emergency law enforcement. They were under the command of local officers. There were Minutemen, there were cavalry, there were infantry, and sometimes they were all in one area. Their service period could be as little as 5 days. Say there was a skirmish and the militia was called up to take care of their particular town and they were never bothered again. That's the only time that these men fought. They were in for 5 days. It could have lasted weeks or months. The service age for these men was 16 to 30. These were the young men who were doing the farming and the local work in the towns. And they needed to be ready in just a minute and able to defend their local area. In deciphering the regiments themselves, the continental regiments on the federal level were numbered, 1st Regiment, 16th Regiment, or they were named, like Lee's Regiment, Putnam's Regiment. There were also disciplines. There was the Corps of Invalids. These were men who were wounded, but were still able to perform some military duty, so they belonged to something called the Corps of Invalids. There was the Corps of Engineers and the Corps of Artillery, all under the Continental Army. On the state level, the militias were numbered, Massachusetts 3rd, or they were called something like the Massachusetts 3rd Regimental Militia, or they were named, usually something like Denny's Command, Reed's Regiment, Simon's Militia. There was also non-military service on the state level, usually political or governmental, but there was something called the Committee of Safety, which would have been like Homeland Defense. That would have been just the immediate area around your town. There was the Committee of Correspondence. This was like an underground Pony Express, because the British were reading the mail, and so they couldn't send anything through the mail. They had to send it through their own underground way. Then there was the Sons of Liberty, and it was like the colonial CIA. There was troop support in the towns and in the states, and they were providing food, arms, uniforms, housing, transportation to the troops. So when you want to start, you've got to get your basic facts. You've got to know your birth, marriage, death of your ancestor, and a starting place. Like, you've got to know where he served, or what state at least, so you can start running it down. Start with family traditions. A lot of times this information is going to be passed down from generation to generation because people are so proud of the fact that they have a revolutionary ancestor. Check the 1840 census. Now, the census was started in 1790 by George Washington, and it was started because he wanted to keep a running total of how many men he had available for military service. But the 1840 census has a bar dedicated to Rev soldier pensioners that were still alive and were in the households. So if you're looking for a son of somebody who lived at that time and his father is living with him in the house, he's going to be listed under there as a Revolutionary Soldier pensioner. Newspaper obituaries, newspaper stories. You're going to be able to check your library for that kind of thing. Lineage societies and local history. Now, the DAR and the SAR are the two most well-known lineage societies, and they have documented pedigrees of contemporary Americans who have Revolutionary War links. The DAR lineage books are available in the library, and they're actually an encyclopedia of abstracts. nsdar.org is open to anybody. You can go there and you can start to research your patriots and find out if they do have a pedigree that's listed with the DAR.
Can you say that name again?
NSDAR, National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution.org.
And you're going to direct them where to go after they find the site?
Oh my God.
May I tell you where to go? When you get on that site, you, I have to take it, I'm going to show it to you. Because you have to know your way around that one. But it's a wealth of information for anybody.
Or you can do like me and just click this and click that. I'll tell you what you're looking for.
No, because you get frustrated.
I know.
Anyway, if you put in, like Beverly said, like my computer, I just put in dar.org, all small cases. And when you start, I got to go backwards. So anyway, the picture of the whole web page for the daughters will come up. And you need to know where you want to go. I have to visualize this. You'll see the word genealogy or research. Okay, research will get you right there. Once you get to research, up on the top, it wants to know, what do you want? Do you want an ancestor or do you want a person, like membership? You can't get membership unless you know her number. So put in John Jones. All right, Jones, John. What state did he do his service? If you don't know, don't put anything in any box if you don't know. Just put in a name if you have his first name. I put in J. We had a new member coming in. Anyway, let's use Kensington, if that's not his name. I had no information about it. So I clicked on his, after filling his name in, I went down to the bottom where it says search. Every soldier, this is not just soldiers, these are anyone that did any service at all. And he came up, all these guys. So I chose the New Hampshire one because he died in Maine. And I think this is who this lady is looking for. It's that easy.
Yeah,
once
just,
you get there.
just finding your way around the site.
And then once that opens up and you've got a name, on your left-hand side, on your right-hand side, there are two boxes. One is a soldier and one is a something. It's like a bell with double sides. Click on that. That will give you every female ever that has joined under that name. The next page will come up, okay? You're going to have, after you do that, get that, because the whole thing of all the ladies will be there. On the left side of their name, you will see their numbers. And if they're older people that have passed, then their name will come up. Now, I'm under Mary Jane Densmore. I'm not on there. You have to go to my third or fourth generation because it's too much information. It gives where we live, all of us, husband, marriage, all the dates. So that you can't do that if the person is still alive.
So if you're looking for your grandmother.
That's right. So, come down those numbers. It'll take you a few minutes, but just click on each one of them. And if you're in luck, her sister-in-law is gone now. I can bring up Leslie White's genealogy. She was single, so there's no husband. In a lot of cases, the husband's name's not on this anyway. It is in the office, but not on the computer. But then you'll get her parents, her grandparents, all the way down to her soldier. Now, when you get the soldier, you can tell by coming down that chain of family who the kids were. And when the soldier first comes up for you, you're going to see Mary Jones, daughter of Paul Jones. Her husband was so-and-so. But until you open up that memo, you aren't going to know when they were married. It's a wealth of information, and it follows the generations right back to you. I made some what they look like. That's where, when you get on that site, the research site, that picture's going to come up.
Why don't you put those on the table?
I did. I brought it home and got it. And I put in my Jonathan Bixby. That's who I joined under. All the Jonathan Bixbys that are on there in the DAR are on there. My number is 7799, which doesn't show here. Yep. No. But I knew who he was. He was sergeant. He did New Hampshire service. If you know what state they did his service in. But I don't just use this for DAR. I use this for genealogical research, so I can find out who these kids belong to and where did they go. Because you'll see many cases where they died, what year they died, who their kids married. So this is what I'm saying. This one will come up. This is the parent's name, the soldier's name, and then it says Samuel married Polly Littlefield. And it tells that they were in Vermont. That's where that family was. Well, there's my picture. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to put these on the table. But this is the funny looking little thing on the far right side, on the right side of the screen that you want to click on. Now, my name is not here. Okay. This is me. 1, 2, the first one down to my, I won't pick anything up till my 4th generation. Then you'll get all my dates, who their wives were, where they lived, where they died, where they were born. And then you go from there. Because it doesn't end in the Revolutionary era. This comes way up to 1841 in Essex, Vermont. And it gives you some place to go for your census of 1850. Will give you the household, all the kids' names, ages. 1850 is the best one that far back. Then the later years, because it gets better. But the DAR it's a wealth of information for any